Hello again, everybody. Witch Doctor here, looking at the markets, and I'm currently looking at the intra-week activity here, taking a look at the major currencies that we talk about day in and day out. We're talking about the dollar index futures here on the left, followed by the majors that we always look at: U.S. dollar, yen, Swiss franc, and the Canadian across the top. We got the euro, the pound, the Australian dollar all across the bottom. And of course, the main thing that I look at here is the dollar index futures, because the dollar index futures is kind of like the puppet master, if you will, that tells me what to expect in all these other major currencies. But what you're looking at here is a collection of 4-hour charts, 4 hours across the board. You can see here the dollar on a 4-hour, and basically what I'm looking at is last week's activity. This is last week, and we are comparing it with this week. Okay, so in a sense, what I'm doing is I'm looking at last week's high and low, and I'm gauging the strength or the weakness of the market based on what we're doing in relation to those levels. So as you can see here, I'm looking at last week's high and low on the dollar index futures, and the most important thing here is that we broke down below last week's low, which signifies the fact that the sellers were in force. The bears came in and they were taking charge of the dollar index. We had the FOMC interest rate announcement. We basically had Ben Bernanke and the Fed come out say this week that they're going to basically buy everything under the sun, and by doing that, basically what that suggests is that they're going to continue to print money. QE3 is on the table. QE3 is definitely going to be the subject of conversation over the next coming months, weeks, months, and years, for instance. But basically, if there's more printing, that's how they're going to make this happen. They're going to print more currency, and therefore the dollar index. There's going to be more dollars in the system, and therefore the value of the dollar is going down. So you can see that we broke down below last week's low. We had a retracement back to last week's low after the break. You can see the breakdown here, retracement, and then using the last week's low as resistance, and the market literally just flooded to the downside here in the dollar index futures. So after breaking down below last week's low and then using the last week's low as resistance, you can see that we did flush to the downside, while the euro definitely broke above last week's high. Remember, the dollar and the euro are moving in the opposite direction. You can see here that we broke above last week's high here, and the euro used last week's high as support after we broke out. Remember, if you know your concepts on support and resistance, you can see here that we used last week's high was resistance. We broke above that and then came back down and used it as support. Okay, so classic technical analysis, using it as a springboard for more upside potential. And this turned out to be a phenomenal week here in the euro, pushing all the way up to 131.50 or so. But you can see just a dramatic push above last week's high in the euro, and pushing very strongly into the close of the week. And you can see here that we've broken through some key levels, and we continue to show strength. And we got the pound dollar also did the same thing, broke above last week's high, did not get a very dramatic push back down to last week's high to use as support. We use these as entry levels once we break out. So we have the breakout and then the retracement, which is where we get in, and then hopefully get some sort of a burst in that direction, putting in new highs. But you can see that the pound dollar here putting in, breaking above the 160 and finishing. If you look at my premium videos, this is exactly what we've been talking about. We should be reaching some level of resistance up here. We'll talk about that more in a moment. But you can see the Australian dollar also back above 105 at the culmination of the week, even reaching up to 106 and change, where you can see a break above last week's high. You can see here, and then using last week's high as support. Very significant chain of events here. And the Japanese yen did try to break down below last week's low, using it as resistance on a retest, and then you could have definitely put in a good 80 pips off of that trade. You got the Swiss franc, which definitely broke down below last week's low as well, used it as resistance on a retest, and then definitely failed, pushing down to the low 92.50s before rallying just a bit off of that low. But 92.50 from 94.50, that's a good 200-point run. Very nice push there. And the Canadian dollar, very picture perfect here, as a good demonstration about what I'm talking about in the whole scheme of things. This is it. where you have step one. Step one is a break above or below the previous week's high or low. So you can see here's the low from last week right here. We broke below it here, and then what you do is let the market do what it's got to do. When it retraces back to that level that it broke down from, you can see that we should use it as resistance. It was support here, now it's resistance, and you can see that we used it picture perfect. Selling opportunity here, selling opportunity here, here, and here. We had 4 selling opportunities at 97.64 here in the Canadian dollar, and it came down all the way to 96.30. So you had a pretty decent 130 pip move in the Canadian dollar before the market put in its low and then found buyers and rallied all the way to 97.09. But at the very least, you could have been able to get some of this this push down here. Now when you extrapolate that and you take that mindset and that strategy and apply it across the board, I mean, just look at all the opportunities that you had. You can see here in the euro, we did break above last week's high. So right here was resistance, and then you broke above it here, right? And then you retraced right here, and this is where your buying opportunity was, and then you bought it at let's say 128 and change, and this took off. So you had a pretty decent, let's just call it almost 300 pip move, right? So this is fantastic strategy that you can employ in your trading, and you can bet that you know, it goes to say that this is a simple strategy that anybody can use, and at the end of the day, I wouldn't be looking anywhere else if you can make money here. So hope that helps. Good luck in your trading. Don't hesitate to check us out in the premium market wrap. We'll go into a little bit more detail about what we can expect for the coming sessions. This is the Wish Starter signing out. Hopefully it helps. Good luck in your trading. Stay safe out there. Best regards to all, and we'll see you at the next market wrap. While I got you here, I wanted to take a quick moment to say that if you really liked what you're looking at here in the free Forex market wrap video, I wanted to give you the opportunity to come take a look at the premium weekly Forex market wrap video that I do every week. And basically it's a little bit more in depth, or should I say a lot more in depth information about the markets that I cover. And you can see here that in this short video I go over the basics about what I've been looking at on the major currencies. In the more in-depth market wrap video, I take a look at a in-depth analysis on the 6 major currency pairs. You also get actionable trading scenarios. The important thing here is that we're offering a 3-day risk-free trial, so you don't have to pay a cent. It's about a 30 to 45 minute video that'll go through all the major currency pairs that I look at, and it shows you a lot more in-depth analysis and forecast, looking at the longer term picture and the big major trends that are affecting what you're looking at on the lower time frames that you're looking at on a day-to-day basis. So take a moment to go take a look at the premium market wrap video. You can see the link here provided, www.traderstouch.com/3day, and it also includes a free membership to the Traders Learning Network, where you can meet other traders that are like-minded individuals, and they're basically there to help everybody looking at the same markets as you. So good luck, hope it helps, and look forward to seeing you on the inside.